The film entitled SISU in 2023 will tell the story of the strength of determination of a war veteran in fighting for his rights. Set in Finland in 1944 when the Second World War ended, at that time Germany withdrew all its troops from Finland. It was seen how brutal and cruel the Nazis were. When they moved back to Germany, they burned all the areas they passed. The story will focus on a former Finnish soldier named Tommi Korpi, who lost all his family members due to the war. Since then, Korpi chose to avoid the war and live alone as a gold miner. From the scars on his body we can see that Korpi has had a hard past. Korpi continues to look for a point where there might be gold. One day he finds a small piece of gold in the river, indicating that there is indeed a source of gold. Korpi tries to dig a hole around the river. Finally, Korpi really finds a lot of pure gold. Korpi could not express his joy until he cried happily. With that much gold he could enjoy his old age without having to work anymore. Korpi then prepared to go to the nearest city to sell his gold. No kidding. The journey to the city that had to be traveled was 900 kilometers by horse and accompanied by his beloved dog. In the middle of his journey, Korpi met Nazi soldiers who laughed and mocked Korpi. But Korpi passed without the slightest fear on his face. At that time one of the Nazi soldiers intended to shoot him, but was prevented by his commander named Bruno. Bruno was sure that his men behind would definitely finish off Korpi. Korpi continued down the road where he saw people hanging from electric poles. And a moment later, sure enough, there were Bruno's men who intercepted Korpi. One of them shot Korpi's dog until it ran away in fear. They also searched Korpi's belongings and found a bag full of gold. Korpi began to feel uncomfortable, and when one of them was about to shoot Korpi, suddenly Korpi easily finished them all off, and here we will be more convinced that Korpi is not an ordinary old man. Shortly after Korpi left, Bruno's troops came back because they heard an unnatural gunshot behind him. And how shocked Bruno was when he saw all his men had died horribly. Bruno also found a lump of gold around there. He was sure that there was still a lot of other gold carried by Korpi. Bruno decided to chase Korpi to take his gold. Arriving in an area full of mines, Bruno stopped and watched the seconds when Korpi's horse stepped on a mine, and Korpi's horse was destroyed into pieces, but Korpi was still alive and his gold nuggets were scattered. Then Bruno approached with his steel tank and watched Korpi collect his gold. When Bruno's men were about to shoot, suddenly Bruno told his men to stop shooting and told one of them to move forward, but then he told two more of his men to move forward, and finally he told two female prisoners to walk in front to secure the road from mines. In the tank, Bruno, who had found a Tommi Korpi's name necklace, Bruno then contacted headquarters to find data. Who is this person? What was surprising was, the headquarters said that they were lucky they were still alive. Bruno cancelled his intention to chase the person, because the man was a legendary slaughterer who was able to defeat 300 Russian soldiers alone. But Bruno ignored the warning from headquarters. Korpi stopped near a car. The driver was dead. Then he hid and treated his wounds there. Not long after, Bruno's convoy passed by the place. Right when he was beside him, Korpi swiftly slipped under the car. But because there was a sniffer dog that smelled Korpi's body odor, Korpi finally doused his body with gasoline from the car's tank. Korpi managed to escape by burning his own body, then jumping into the river. Bruno did not give up. One by one he sent his men into the river to catch Korpi, but none of them returned. Korpi managed to escape from Bruni's pursuit and arrived on the other side and continued his journey. Upon arriving in the city, Korpi was very disappointed when he saw the city had been burned down. He finally walked to a petrol station and planned to rest because he was tired. However, just as he was about to rest, he heard the sound of his dog. But apparently his dog had been fitted with a bomb by Bruno, and Corpy was finally caught after being hit by an explosion. Then he was hung from a pole. Thinking that Corpy was dead, Bruno left with his gold, but it turned out, Corpy supported his weight by nailing his calf. And here, we will witness Corpy's determination not to die in vain. A few moments later, a Nazi plane landed to refuel. Due to the vibrations, Corpy's hanger came off and Corpy fell. They intended to kill Corpy, but it was not that easy to kill an automaton Corpy. Corpy took out the bullet and pulled out the iron that was stuck in his body. The pilot of the plane watched in horror. Corpy stitched his own wound with wire. Bruno's troops continued to move towards a plane that would take him back to Germany. In the prisoner's car, one of the captive women told that the man they had been chasing was a legendary immortal known as SISU in Finland. He easily killed 300 Russian soldiers, which caused his wife and children to die. The woman also said that Corpy would not stop before finishing off the gold thief. And sure enough, shortly after the woman told her story, one by one the Nazi soldiers died. Corpy gave weapons to the prisoners to fight back. Corpy managed to seize his vehicle and chase Bruno, who was carrying his gold, just as Bruno was about to fly. With his mining tools, Corpy managed to hang on the plane and managed to get in. There was a fight between Corpy and Bruno, which ended with Bruno being tied to a bomb, which finally fell. Only Corpy and the plane's pilot remained, but the pilot eventually died, and the plane was about to crash. Corpy immediately looked for a way to survive because the plane was about to crash. Then he tied his body to a box and the plane crashed. And again we will be amazed by the fact that Corpy is still alive. After getting his gold back, he went to the nearest bank to exchange his gold for a lot of money. Everyone moved aside when Corpy entered the bank, whether because of his scary appearance or because of his bad smell. I don't know. Then Corpy took out the gold from his bag and said,
Ei ole sitten niin perkeleen raskas kantaa.
Please exchange it for a lot of money. And, finished. The message of this film? Every struggle requires sacrifice. Love is strength. But love can also destroy. Put love in the right place. Greetings. Fasto Cinema.